Hello and welcome to Treasuring Every Verse. I'm your host, author and Bible teacher Kevin Madison. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, friends, we're back and we're still in our series, The New Birth. Like I told you before, it's a long series, but essentially, folks, you can't get this wrong. If you get the new birth wrong, then forget it, man. The likelihood of you going to heaven is nil, none, nada. You can't go. Jesus made it extremely clear unless you are born again, born from above. What does he mean? You are from beneath. Jesus said, He is from above. So, how can somebody from beneath become born from above? You can't. That's the truth. That's the real answer. The real answer is you can't. So, what do you need? You need someone who can do it for you. And that's what God did in his son and through his son, the redemption that came for us. Now, we seen this, right? We seen the foundation being God is spirit, and he created man in his image, that is a spirit. We seen this also that God created man in his likeness, which is his soul, the voice of which being our conscience. Then we started looking at this that God has a body. God has always had a body. There was never a time where God didn't possess a body. And guess what? There was never a time that you didn't possess a body. There was never a time where the angels didn't possess a body. There are no disembodied spirits, according to the scriptures. Now, so we took this and we looked at it and we said, that God gave us a body likened unto that which that Jesus had before God created anything. So that's the how and the when. And we started looking at the why. So we looked at this and we seen that God had prepared a body for Jesus Christ, the man. And we seen that there is two different types of body that the Lord Jesus had that God prepared for him. What is that? We seen the one that was in the beginning. So the first one was a spiritual body. What what constitutes a spiritual body? Only flesh and bones. That's what Jesus had at all times. And then when he created the world, he also had that, and that's what the angels seen. Then when Jesus became the man, what did he have? He also had a spiritual body, which was made mortal. See what? Yes, friends. Listen, Adam had a similar type body. When God created Adam and Eve, they could not die. They had no sin. There was no ability for them to die. They had no ability to feel pain. They had no ability to become sick. That's the kind of body Adam and Eve had. They had what the Bible calls a mortal body, yet it was spiritual. In what way was it spiritual? He couldn't die. There are going to be people on the earth. Let me show you. Well, let me finish this and then I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And I'll just show you the worlds and how this thing is going to work according to the book. So he had a spiritual body made mortal by what? Blood. God introduced blood into the equation. So now you have blood, you have flesh, and you have bones. So every mortal body possess all three. Do an angel have a mortal body? No. Why not? Because all an angel have is flesh and bones. That's all an angel will ever have. They will never have blood. Humanity, God made mankind for that purpose. Now, what kind of body do Jesus have today? And what kind of body you, irrespective of if you are saved or not, it has nothing to do with this. So please don't get this mixed up when we're talking about salvation. Every single person who enters this world before the millennium or the end of the millennium is going to get one of these. All right? Or, well, should I say, at the time of the millennium? I'll explain later. All right. So we're going to go back to a spiritual body. The humans that are on the earth. So there's going to be two divisions. You're going to have what's that? Flesh and bones. And then there are going to be people, literal people like you and I, without sin, living on the earth. They're going to be able to have children. They're going to repopulate the earth. They're never ever going to sin. God's whole plan is to rid his creation of even the very possibility that sin can ever happen again. So what are they going to have? They're going to have flesh. They're going to have bones. And they're going to have blood. And this is what they call a mortal spiritual body. Why a mortal spiritual body? Because it will not be able to die. Why not? We can die. Yes. That's because you and I are sinners. Look, friends, only sinners die. People who are going to live on the new earth, they won't die. Why? Because they won't have any sin. Before Adam and Eve sinned, they didn't get cold, friends. Remember, the sun was 7 times brighter and hotter than it is today. The moon was just like our current sun. Who said that? God said that in Isaiah. So everything was different until sin entered into the world. All right, now that's the written form. Now let me give it to you in pictorial so that you can get it in your mind's eye. Watch. This is exactly what's going to happen with us in the future. So today, so let's just talk about, well, let's take it in the 3 phases that I gave. All right, so let's say before sin. Now let's go God and the angels. Well, it's Adam and Eve too. Adam, Eve. What did they have before sin? Every one of them had a spirit, a soul, and they had a body. The makeup of that body, was just flesh for God and bones. So I need to move Adam and Eve. So let's do this. Let's get them out of here because their body's different. All right. So now Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had spirit, soul, body. Yet it was spiritual. And this was before Satan and the other angels sinned. Okay? So flesh, bones, blood. That's what they had. That was the first. This is a spiritual body. Nobody could die. Okay? Because there was no sin. Then we move on to the second. So this is number 1. We move on to the second. So after sin, now you have the same thing, right? So you got God and the angels equals the same. Got it? So just same makeup. But then you had Adam and Eve. Something changed. So while it was still flesh, bones, and blood, it's the same, but something happened. Became mortal. What does that mean? Death entered the picture. So while they had the same makeup in number two, after sin came into the world, now enters death. And because they had blood, that made their bodies mortal. Why didn't the angels who did the same thing, the one third that fell into sin, why didn't their bodies become mortal? Because of this one ingredient the angel never had and never will have. They have no blood. So their bodies will never become mortal. It will always remain a spiritual body, yet subjected to death, meaning the lake of fire. Not physical, because the angels are indestructible. They're going to go in what God calls the second death, which isn't annihilation. It's going into a place separate from God where you're going to be tormented forever. All right, so now you have the third leg. So what's going to happen? Now you introduce into this equation another set of people. All right, so what do you have? Number three, you have after judgment. So everybody gets judged. Everybody gets judged. Believers and unbelievers. Everyone gets judged. So you have God and the angels, they carry over, they have the same kind of bodies, right? Then you have all humanity, and we carry over, no, we don't carry it over. We actually get this kind of body. And I won't say, yeah, all humanity that live before the millennium. Okay, now you got it. Everybody that lived before the millennium is going to have a body, a spiritual body. They won't have any blood. So that means Adam and Eve, let's say everything ends today, and we get raptured out and the world comes to the end in regular judgment. That means all of us will no longer possess any blood. But during the millennium, let me change colors. During the millennium, there will be children born. How? Because they're going to have natural, normal people on the planet. Those children are going to have the same thing. They are going to have this. Every single one of them is going to have flesh and blood, and they're going to be born into sin. They're going to have to get redeemed, just like we get redeemed. They're going to have to believe the gospel. Jesus is going to be present. And all those who do not receive the gospel, they end up here in this lake of fire with the demons. Okay. But then there's this group who will believe in the Lord Jesus Christ during the millennium. They will remain with the flesh, bones, and blood, but they won't have any sin. Now I know that's difficult, friends, because it's a bit messy, but I'm going to get into this and I'm going to explain it in great detail when we get to the section called Story of the Ages. So just be patient with that one. But hopefully that'll give you some sense of where we're going. So when I'm talking to you, I'm really talking to you with this knowledge. And if you don't know this, as I'm going through these scriptures right here, you're at a slight disadvantage because I'm talking from a knowledge base of what I read, and you probably haven't read it yet or understood it in that manner, and it's probably a little difficult for you to grasp. It took me a while to get it to folks, so don't feel like I'm putting you down. I'm not.